am Mama, and the cafe is open. Welcome back, everyone. Apologies for my break in transmission, and many thanks for your patience. Life just keeps on lifing, don't it? No matter what Donald Trump does with the stock market, the rest of us just have to keep on trucking. And it's exam week for number 2 son, so we've been getting ready for that, and he's just chilling. He's just chilling his way through it. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. So, that's what we're gonna do. So, while he's doing, an amazing job at not getting stressed about his exams, I don't even care about the outcome. I really don't. I just don't want him to be stressed because he's 12. That's enough. Let's focus. Why are we here? Why have I gathered you all here tonight? Well, you and Chris, Laura. You both come in, both of you. Get yourself comfortable. Get your beanbag, your comfy chair, your snuggly blanket, your adult beverage, your milky drink, your Diet Cola, your Diet Dr. Pepper, whatever's your tipple. Not sponsored by any of them, but if you're looking for somebody with an audience of about 4, I'm your girl. Get the voice lubricated and let's get cracking because we've got a lot to cover. So, it's Tuesday. Anyone for tacos? Of course, we all are. Hey, Renee. Hey, Summer. Come in. The others are just getting their bean bags ready and their comfy chairs, blankets, warm milky drinks, adult beverages. And I can understand why you might prefer the adult beverage. And we're going to kick off. So, yes, tacos, anyone? Of course, it's Tuesday. So, yeah. Whoa, that's a shocker, isn't it? Who has expected the ceasefire to be continued for another couple of weeks? Wow, that's such a shocker. I can't believe that's where we are. Interesting. Anywho, we've just done it because, I don't know, random reasons, word salads and the like. That's as much as I can make out. I will read you what the esteemed leader said. Let's see if I can share my screen. I'm not terribly good at this. Select window. Entire screen? I don't know. Let's just allow that for a second. Hopefully you can see this. I won't be here for long, so if you can't, just bear with me. Donald J. Trump on Truth Social. Statement of President Donald J. Trump. Based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade. I'm not sure about these capitals, but that's stylistic and good grammar, and in all other respects remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or the other. President Donald Josephine Trump. So let's go back. Stop sharing because we look like we're going down into a wormhole and we're just doing rabbit holes today. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. I'm clicking the button. Hello, I'm back. Who's snuck in while I was reading that? We've got Jessica, Donald Jessica Trump. Yeah. As Randy Rainbow says. I love Randy Rainbow. He's hilarious. So taco, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. All that absolute tripe on Truth Social. Well, I'll translate it for you. I really fucked up. I've got an anger problem. I like to see myself as Billy Big Bollocks, but I'm really not. So I'm going to make idle threats. And then when the time runs out and the whole world has not capitulated to my threats, then I'll make up some shit that hopefully my base will still believe, and we're all good, right? Yeah, everybody? Not really. No, no, Donny. No, you're talking absolute nonsense. And can I just be clear about my opinion on your esteemed leader, for those of you who are unfortunate enough to be currently residing in the American mainland? I'm so sorry. I really am. I'm really sorry for you at the moment. It will be okay. It has to be okay. It will come good again, I'm sure. We just have to keep doing whatever we can. And Summer, don't worry about responding. You just rest your eyes, my lovely. Jan, hey, welcome. Come in. Comfy chair, beanbag, milky drink, something stiffer if you need it, and we'll crack on. So yes, we've tacoed. We're not at war as of the deadline for the most recent ceasefire expired just as we were coming on air. But thankfully, the dear leader. Oh, Amy, I'm so sorry. Substack, stop it. All right. Enough. We've had enough of your shenanigans. Behave, or we'll all go somewhere else. Just saying. Hey, Laura number 2. It's so good to have you all here. It's like a little party, isn't it? Have you all got your comfy seats, your blankets, and your drinks? Then I will continue. So yes, we're safe from World War III for this evening, and probably I expect for another 2 weeks, because 2 weeks seems to be the thing, doesn't it? And I just want to make 2 things clear, if I can remember them both, because I haven't written them down. 1, Donald Trump is ignorant. He is very low IQ. I can say that because I have a card that proves I am a genius. High IQ, belong to Mensa, the high IQ society. He's not smart. He's not a good businessman. He has relied on the bailouts of daddy and good lawyers his whole life. His whole grift has been rip you off, and if you try and come at me, set my lawyers onto you, or just set my lawyers onto you to try and get some money out of you. Unfortunately, as he is figuring out, hey, Tamara, that's not how world diplomacy and geopolitics work. You can't set your lawyers on Iran. You can't ask your attorney to go beat up Keir Starmer. So you have to resort to silly nonsense on your own private social media site because you couldn't behave well enough to go on any of the others, which is saying a lot. So yes, Trump is ignorant. That is my opinion. There is also an awful lot of evidence for it. He is a stupid person. He is reactionary. He is emotional, and he is going to drag us all into World War III. That's one thing. What was the other thing? It was about where we are, Trump being an idiot. Oh, damn, it was important. So my theories, okay. It's a little bit complex. Number 1, this 2-week ceasefire nonsense, this recurring 2-week ceasefire, this is good for some. I'll tell you who it's good for. It's good for anyone who knows when to buy and when to sell on the stock market. It's good for the industrial military complex. You have been told all your lives to fear big pharma. If you had any idea the amount of money that goes through the industrial military complex, it would make your eyes water. The longer this conflict is extended, the more military contracts can be given out to replenish munitions, all the blah 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 stuff that you have to do in order to stay ready. Contracts can go out to the cronies. People can set up their own drone companies who've never seen a drone in real life before. Family can invest in those companies, and Trump's lackeys, Pious Pete, can go beg for more money from Congress and eventually get it because of the balance of power in government at the moment. So this is a money-making scheme, and the grift stops when the war stops. So that's one reason for keeping it going. Second reason is, and I hope this is not the case, the longer Trump can string Iran along, the better he can ready his forces, which weren't ready back in February, the end of February, because Bibi went off half-cocked, so Trump just had to throw whatever he'd got at the problem and hope for the best. And unfortunately, the best means 13 dead Americans so far. I'm sorry if that's blunt, but that's what happened. So by stalling and however he dresses it up, it's just to make us look over there, while over here we're building up the military complex so that when we do finally barge in to get the uranium and whatever else is on the agenda today, we've got the troops to support such a move. But hang on, I've got an update message on my screen. Go away. But what Moron Features doesn't realize, Iran are doing the same thing. And they've told you because you tell them everything that you're doing. One more thing before I get into the real nuts and bolts of tonight's episode. Don't conduct diplomacy on social media. That's not how you do it. That's not wise. That doesn't give anybody room for back and forth, for give and take, for the input from experts. But we don't do experts, do we? I mean, this is all coming from the man who told you to inject yourself with bleach and you'd be fine from COVID. So, not smart. Anyhow, that is what I believe. I believe that he is quite happy to keep this stringing along because of the money that can be made from it. And because if he finally has to make good on one of these promises, these threats to Iran, he's going to have the firepower to back it up. And at the moment, they're not ready. Hopefully, Iran can do something. Iran, if you're listening, if you've stumbled upon this for some bizarre reason, first of all, love the Lego videos. It's not just the videos, which are really smart and so quick. Literally, the idiot does something, you've made a video about it by the next morning. Fucking awesome. Keep going. But the tracks, the hip hop beats behind them. Oh my God, I'm loving it. If there's an album, I will be buying it. Anyway, that aside, yeah, stop murdering your people because that's bad. And, that's put an awful lot of us off you, Iran. I'm just saying we don't like the killing of innocent people. Call us sensitive flowers if you will, but we're not so keen on that. Lego and songs, love it. Slaughtering innocent civilians, not such a fan. But here's an idea, and it's not my own. I've completely stolen it because I love it. Why don't you say the only person you'll negotiate with is one Barack Hussein Obama? It's just an idea. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, we've got other stuff to discuss. And before we get on to the international stuff, let me just share a few thoughts on DoorDash Granny, because I have been AWOL since DoorDash Granny did her thing, and I haven't necessarily had an opportunity to share my thoughts. So I'll try and condense it so we can get on to tonight's topic, which is the black gold. So To borrow from one of the most important books in my world, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you've ever tried to stop drinking, you'll know why. That is a very important book to me. That stunt made clear three pertinent ideas. One, this administration is 100% performative and 0% integrity. Trump framed it. He actually stood there acting like it was a genuine delivery. DoorDash confirmed it was a setup. That's right, Laura, staged. DoorDash's own head of public affairs confirmed on Twitter, quote, "No one is claiming it was a real delivery." Oh, they are. "It was clearly and obviously a planned event. You don't say." Trump himself even winked in the moment as it was actually happening, joking to reporters, quote, "This doesn't look staged, does it?" "Yeah, it does. Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. You're fooling nobody, buddy. But, crack on. You do you. We're not judging." Pertinent idea number two. America's healthcare system is so broken that an elderly woman has had to take on a 0 hours gig economy contract to work to be able to afford to keep her elderly cancer-ridden husband alive. So whatever you thought you were doing with this performance, DoorDash Granny Tamara, whatever you thought you were doing, all you were really doing is showing how seriously lacking in integrity you are, showing how absolutely broken the American healthcare system is. And pertinent idea number three, you really, really, in the same moment as saying how wonderful no tax on tips is, you kind of proved that no tax on seniors is shit. Because if no tax on seniors was working, then DoorDash Granny could be husband's hospital bedside granny, which is probably where she'd rather be, but I don't know because she's clearly a MAGA shill. But she's got a husband with cancer. That's real. Both things can be real. I don't know. She really has completed upwards of 14,000 DoorDash deliveries since 2022, relying on the flexibility of the 0 hours contract to keep her husband's healthcare paid for, and he genuinely does have stage 3 cancer. So in 2025, Sharon Simmons, DoorDash Granny, made £22,000. Would you like to know what the DoorDash CEO made in the same period of time? Little bit more. 313 million with an M. Her son-in-law has had to set up a GoFundMe to help support the cancer treatment. All real. All real. Yeah, Tamara, you were close. No, 313 million. It's disgusting, isn't it? That's how it's all working, though, these days. The rich are getting richer and richer and richer, and the rest of us are just hanging on by our fingertips, doing whatever we can. She testified before Congress in July of last year in support on the no tax on tips policy. She knew that no tax on seniors wasn't going to do the job. DoorDash called her up a month in advance of this stunt to get her buy-in, to give her the branded DoorDash grandma t-shirt, and to try and say, look, this policy is really helping people like me. Yeah, no tax on tips might be. But to be honest, if you're only earning $22,000 a year, You weren't gonna have one enormous tax bill anyway, so how much are you really making? And clearly, no tax on seniors has done fuck all for you because you're fucking working. See you later tomorrow. Thank you for popping in. Anywho, and not just 3 pertinent ideas because I always bring you more. This stunt kept giving. Other things the golden grifter did not plan for is his culture war didn't even land with MAGA Granny. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to shout at you all. Oh, Tamara, Jesus Christ, I'm so sorry. You're retired and now you have to go back to work. Exactly. This is not the American dream, people. I don't know Tamara that well. We just, exchange pleasantries in when we bump into each other on the Substacks. But I'm pretty sure she worked hard all her life, as the American dream promised, and then retired, as the American dream promised. And now she's got to go back to work, which wasn't part of the deal. But she's not alone, as we've just illustrated. Oh, I'm so sorry, Tamara. Anyway, back to the stunt. So the culture war didn't even land with MAGA Granny. She is focused on making ends meet and keeping her husband alive. So when Trump asked her, what did he say? He said, what do you think of men in women's sports or transgender in women's sports? I don't know. She replied, I really don't have an opinion on that. And when pushed, I'm quoting here, she replied, I'm here about no tax on tips. She refused to engage in his culture war twice in front of him, in front of cameras. She has zero bandwidth for this nonsense because she's just trying to keep her and her husband alive. The prop just wouldn't perform as instructed. Naughty prop. And then to make matters worse, as if to add insult to injury, really rub salt in that wound, he threw her under the bus. So having used her, posed with her, tipped her $100 and tried to claim her as a MAGA voter, he subsequently called the entire stunt tacky. His word. At a Las Vegas event a few days later, Trump said he found Simmons wonderful and beautiful as a person, but did not like the stunt. It was tacky. Well, why am I feeling like that should have been the perfect stunt for you then, sir? Anyhow, just wanted to share my thought. Oh, do you like the t-shirt today? We've gone for problem solved. We're trying. We're doing our absolute best. So let's move on because it's taken a little while to get going. Oh my goodness, 25 minutes. It's not the longest episode. It's a little bit of a deeper dive into what the fuck's this oil thing all about. I've called it Black Gold and Bollocks. Subtitle, Oil, Energy Independence, the Strait of Hormuz, and why Donald Trump is full of it yet again. So this episode is going to break down in plain English how oil actually works from the seabed to your petrol tank. If it's not something that interests you, that's okay. I'll be back again next time with something else. But whenever I'm not understanding something, I think, well, I might not be the only one. Let's have a look into this, because whenever your president opens his mouth, my natural inclination is to assume he's lying and go fact check him. And this is where I landed. There won't be a test at the end, but listen up anyway, because I found it really interesting. So we're going to look at Brent versus WTI, light versus heavy, Sweet versus sour, the refinery mismatch, the Strait of Hormuz, the Jones Act, look out for that one, and the gap between Trump's claims of energy dominance and what you're paying at the pump. Receipts throughout and bollocks klaxons included, because there is a lot of bollocks. So let's have a look. I've been watching the news, as I say. I've also been watching. Did you, Tamara? Oh, that's so cool. I'd never heard of the Jones Act, I'll be honest. Every day's a school day. So, yeah, I've been watching the prices on the UK pumps. I've been talking to you guys about how much you're paying. I've been watching the news, seeing other Americans across the country and how much they're paying. And I've also been watching your dear esteemed leader stand at a podium and tell Americans they are energy independent and therefore I had to do a deeper dive. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz. That's for those Europeans and China, and we're doing it for everybody else. We don't need it because we're independent. You're not going to be massively shocked to hear that's not entirely true. I know. Who'd have thunked? Yeah. So let's break it down. Let's tell you what's fact and what's absolute pulp fiction. We're going to go back to basics. We're going to assume no knowledge. So please don't be offended. But that's the point I was starting from. No jargon without explanation. By the end of this episode, we should all have a much better understanding what Brent crude and what WTI actually are, why the Strait of Hormuz affects your petrol bill, even if you've never been within 3,000 miles of it, what light sweet and heavy sour crude mean and why it matters, and exactly where is the gap between what Trump's claiming and what's actually happening at the pumps. Because please, people, keep believing the evidence of your eyes and ears. It's telling you the truth. Receipts throughout, let's go. So what is crude oil? I mean, actually, physically, what is it? So it's a fossil fuel. I think most of us did this in geography, and I'll be honest, that's where the extent of my knowledge ended at the end of this next paragraph. So fossil fuel, dead organic matter, mostly ancient marine organisms that got buried under layers of rock over millions and millions of years and got cooked up into this nice black sludgy stuff by heat and pressure. And it's basically a thick hydrocarbon. Different places on Earth, different ancient ecosystems, different geology equals different oil. So it's not all the same, or not all oil is created equally. And that will matter enormously as we get into it. So the first thing to understand, which we probably did know, crude oil is not petrol. You can't put crude oil directly into your car. You can, but you won't be able to drive it. It has to be refined. Essentially, that means it needs heating, chemical separation into its component parts. Petrol, gasoline, forgive me if I say petrol, that's what we call it, but gasoline is one of those parts. So is diesel, jet fuel, kerosene, lubricating oil, asphalt, and the one that more and more of us are learning, plastics, which is significant. The clothes dyes on your back, the phone case in your hand, the floor under your feet, all of that tracks back to a barrel of crude oil at some point in the supply chain. So when oil prices spike, they don't just hit your petrol bill, gasoline bill. They ripple through virtually every sector of the economy. And that's why inflation and oil prices are so closely linked and move together so reliably. So 1 barrel of oil is 42 American gallons. That's what you get in your 1 barrel. That's about 159 litres. And that's the unit of measurement for everything we're going to discuss. So barrels of oil. Hey, neurodivergent hodgepodge, come in, get comfy. We're just looking at the black gold. So Brent crude versus WTI, or WTF as I've been calling it because I had no idea. You hear these terms on financial broadcasts, the news, and most people's eyes just glaze over if they even hear them. So let me try and fix that. Think of them like the FTSE 100 and the Dow. Yeah. They're not different things being traded on those exchanges. They're different measuring sticks of the same things being traded. So it's the same market, just different measurements. Both are types of crude oil and they're used as global price benchmarks, so to measure against. Both Brent and WTI are light, relatively low sulfur crude oils, but they come from different places. They're priced at different locations and they serve different markets, and that is important. So Brent crude comes from the North Sea, my neck of the woods, the oil fields between the UK and Norway, and it's the global benchmark. About 2/3 of the world's internationally traded oil is priced against Brent, a barrel of Brent crude. When you hear the BBC say oil prices rose today, they're talking about Brent crude. WTI stands for West Texas Intermediate, and that comes from the Permian Basin in Texas and New Mexico. It's the American benchmark. Ah, there you go, Tamara. You've read my mind. It's like you've seen the script. Yeah, so West Texas Intermediate from the Permian Basin in Texas and New Mexico. That's the American benchmark. It's priced at a storage hub in Cushing, Oklahoma, and it's used primarily for US domestic oil markets as a measure. Normally, Brent trades a few dollars higher than WTI, and the main reason for this is logistics. It costs more money to ship American oil to global buyers, so the global price naturally runs a bit higher or lower. Under normal conditions, that spread between Brent and WTI is usually around $3 to $5 a barrel, something like that. Boring, stable, fine, nothing to get excited about. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Tamara, about Alaska's oil. That's a good question. Oh, yeah. No, it's not just the oil. There's oil from everywhere. These are the measures. So there's the Brent crude measure and the WTI crude measure. They're a price and everything is priced against one or the other. I know, confusing AF, but I'll try. If we just kind of hold that idea and we'll go further into what actually is going on. So you won't be surprised to hear this probably. We're not currently under normal circumstances. Yes, I know, shocker, right? There has been a $25 difference between Brent and WTI. So the price that is being paid for oil. It's not a rounding error. That's the market screaming that the global supply chain is broken, while the American domestic market is partially, that's quite key. That's doing a lot of heavy lifting here, partially insulated. So we'll come back to that several times and just see which elements of Trump's claims have any kind of resemblance to reality. Not a lot. I'll give you a spoiler. So, light sweet versus heavy sour. Please don't try it. It's not how it tastes, okay? This is the bit that nobody really explains properly, and I'll do my best. But it's absolutely central to why energy independence is more complicated than some slogan from the Mango Moron. Crude oil varies enormously depending on where it came from. The two main variables are its density and its sulfur content. Density is described as light or heavy. Light crude has more of the smaller, simpler hydrocarbon molecules, the ones that are easy to distill into petrol and diesel. Heavy crude has more of the big, complex molecules that take much more processing to turn into useful fuel. Sulfur content is described as sweet or sour. Sweet crude has low sulfur, easy to refine, less corrosive to equipment, lower emissions. Sour crude, high sulfur, more expensive to process, worse for wear and tear on the refinery kit. So light sweet crude, which is what both Brent crude and WTI are, is the good stuff. Easy to refine, high yield of valuable products where the money's made. Heavy sour crude is difficult stuff, which makes it cheaper to buy because it has to be, otherwise nobody would buy it. But it costs more to process. So that's the trade-off. And here's where it gets interesting for the United States. The shale oil revolution. Fracking. Not swearing. Fracking, I said. That happened in the 2010s, and it produced vast quantities of light sweet crude from Texas and North Dakota. America suddenly had more light sweet oil than it knew what to do with. Brilliant, right? You'd think? Except, and there's always an exception, I hate fracking too. I was out there protesting in the UK. Not in my country, thanks. Please, thank you. Water tables, not good. All that good stuff. So, the critical bit. Why is this not the best news you've ever heard, that the light sweet crude is abundant in the United States? Exactly, Laura. It's very, very damaging. Well, because American refineries, the places that are essential for taking the big, thicky black stuff from the bottom of the ocean and turning it into something you can actually use, they weren't built for light sweet crude. They were built decades ago, specifically to handle what was available at that time, heavy sour crude, imported from, and this may not surprise you, Venezuela, amongst others, including Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Canada. The equipment is literally designed for a different kind of oil. It don't work on the sweet stuff. So the United States is simultaneously exporting its own light sweet crude to Asia and Europe because that's where the refineries are that can efficiently process it, while importing heavy sour crude from Canada, Venezuela, Iraq, Saudi Arabia to feed the Gulf Coast's refineries that were built for it. So let that sit for a moment. I may have mentioned a couple of countries there that your newly found geography understanding of the Middle East tells you might be significant if the Strait of Hormuz is closed. You'd be right, because you're a smart audience, and that's why I like you. The country that is supposedly energy independent is exporting oil with one hand and importing different oil with the other because the plumbing doesn't match. This isn't a conspiracy theories, it's engineering and geography, and it's the direct consequence of decades of infrastructure decisions. Not judging those decisions, that's just where we are. Bollocks, klaxon, whim, 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 whim. The claim Mr. Trumpty Dumpty made: the US is energy independent and doesn't need foreign oil. The reality: the US is a net exporter of crude oil and petroleum products combined. But in the narrower measure of crude oil alone, the US remains a net importer. In 2023, the US imported 6.48 million, mama with an M, barrels of crude per day. Top 5 sources: Canada, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Brazil. Energy independence means you won't ever run out of it, which is true. But it's never, ever, ever meant you pay domestic prices rather than global ones. So let's look at the journey the oil makes before it gets to you. This is where you will see some of the evidence disproving energy independence. You'll really see whether we produce our own oil doesn't translate to we get cheaper petrol, gasoline. Step 1, extraction. Oil comes out of the ground. In the US, mostly via fracking in the Permian Basin in Texas and New Mexico, or conventional drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico. Just want to make that clear. In the UK, oil platforms in the North Sea. Step 2, that oil, once it's out of the ground, goes to market. This is a really important, significant step. It's key for the energy consumption of both of us, the UK and the US. The oil does not belong to the nation. It belongs to the company that extracted it. And that company will sell it to whoever pays the most, which means the global market price. BP, British Petroleum, does not give the UK mates rates on North Sea oil. And ExxonMobil doesn't give Americans a friendly discount on Texas crude. It goes to the highest bidder on the global market. We all have to pay more. Step 3. For the US oil, once it's out the ground, it all has to go to Cushing, Oklahoma. What's in Cushing, Oklahoma, I hear you ask? Well, that is the pricing hub for WTI crude. Cushing is landlocked in the middle of the country, and this became the hub because of the pipeline infrastructure that's been built over decades. So all WTI futures are priced for delivery at Cushing. The oil then has to travel south again to Gulf Coast refineries. Yes, it goes north to be priced and then south again to be processed. This is as inefficient as it sounds, but it's the way it is. Step 4, refining. The crude oil gets heated in a distillation tower. Different components boil off at different temperatures and are collected separately. So petrol, gasoline, lighter gases come off the top. Diesel and kerosene come from the middle. Heavy stuff like asphalt comes from the bottom. From a standard 42-gallon American barrel of crude, a typical refinery produces roughly 19 gallons of gasoline or petrol, 12 gallons of diesel, 4 gallons of jet fuel, and the rest is split between asphalt, lubricating oils, LPG, liquid petroleum gas, and industrial chemicals. So that process from crude entering the distillation unit to the finished product leaving the refinery, how long do you think that takes? I think this is reasonable. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks before the oil that's arrived is leaving in its component parts. But from the moment the oil comes out of the ground to when it arrives at your petrol station, that can take 2 to 3 months. And that explains why the price spikes don't always hit immediately. So you can quickly get down to the pump, fill up before, the war kicks off, which thank God is what I did, but it's not going to last forever. But when they do hit, they don't come down very quickly either. So step 5, distribution. Refined petrol moves by pipeline to large storage terminals near population centres, then by tanker truck to individual filling stations. We all knew that to a greater or lesser extent. Cool sidebar. I used to work in a petrol station. I know, right? I've worked in several. I worked for Supermarket's own petrol station. I've worked for BP petrol station, and I've worked for an Esso petrol station. Oh, and a different supermarket chain's petrol station. Oh yeah, I've done it all, me. I loved it. So much fun. Any hoodly boodly. So, this distribution chain is where America has a uniquely self-inflicted problem. We will come back to that. And who was it? Was it Tamara who'd done a presentation on the Jones Act? Because we might need her shortly. But this is going to blow your tiny minds, Americans. Sorry, Summer, I didn't do the calibrations in Canadian dollars. So hopefully you'll still be able to get the idea. So in the UK, this is what happens to me, because it is all about me when all's said and done. The breakdown of what you pay at the pump looks roughly like this. About 1/3 is the crude oil cost. About 10% is refining and distribution. And roughly 60% is tax. Fuel duty is currently around 52.95 pence per litre, plus VAT at 20% charged on top of everything, including the fuel duty. So we'd get taxed once and then we get taxed on the tax. I know, only the UK could get away with something so stupid. The tax floor for us means that even when crude prices drop significantly, we don't see much of a difference at the pump because the fixed tax component makes up so much of the price. We do see them go up because they're businesses and they fucking can. So currently, ladies and gentlemen, that's not, it's not without pain, let's say, in the UK. So please don't think you're the only one suffering. And when I give you the actual numbers, you may feel a little bit better about your own gas costs. So 52.95 pence per litre plus VAT translates into dollars as 200.3 pence a gallon, plus the 20% takes it up to 240.4 pence a gallon. Convert into US dollars, we pay $3.20 per gallon just in tax. Yeah. For comparison, in the US, crude oil accounts for about half the pump price. Federal fuel tax is only about 18 cents per gallon, tiny by international standards, which means Americans feel crude oil price movements much more directly than Brits do because it's a bigger part of the total cost. Great when prices are falling, brutal, as many of you are experiencing, when prices are increasing. So the conversion, 18 cents a gallon is about 475 a litre, 4.75 cents a litre, which is £3.57 a litre. And in the UK now, and that comes to $7.90 a gallon. So we're comparing $7.90 a gallon with $3.20 a gallon. Oh no, sorry, that was just in tax. I did do the calculation. Let me quickly find it. Sorry, yeah. So we're paying pretty much double what you're paying in taxes, and then you've got the oil prices on top of that. So let me just tell you where we are so that you can compare what you paid last time you went to the petrol pump. So in the UK currently, and I checked the prices tonight on a petrol price comparison, took the average for my area in London, and the average price was 6.9 pence per litre. That is £5.93.7 pence per gallon. And at the current exchange rate, that works out that every time I need to fill up my car, I pay $7.90 a gallon. $7.90 a gallon. Okay, so just when you're paying your 4, 5, whatever dollars at the moment, could be worse. You could live in the UK. Just saying. So that's that bit. That's the pipeline, literally. Let's have a look at the Strait of Hormuz and how that affects us all, and why it's making these prices spike so unbelievably massively. So you've been hearing about the Strait of Hormuz since February. And let me fess up straight away, never heard of it before. I mean, I may have seen it in passing. I think there was some comedy sketch a billion years ago that mentions the Strait of Hormuz, or a comedy song, I forget. But no, if you'd have asked me where it was, would not have had a clue. So what is it, and why is it making all of our petrol so expensive? It's, as you've probably seen, because it's all over the news, they love to show the little map. It's the narrow waterway, which at its narrowest point is about 33 kilometers wide. So, there's space there. And it's between Iran in the north and Oman and the United Arab Emirates in the south. And it connects the Persian Gulf right over up to Iraq to the Gulf of Oman, which is where it empties out into the wider world via the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. Don't forget, this recording will be posted if you ever want to come back and go, what were those numbers, figures, geographical locations? Because it's a lot. And if I didn't have it written down, I'd be struggling. I've been over this several times and my brain is still going, ow, stop with the words. But I'm not going to, because we need to know. Because we need to talk sense to power, not just truth. So, through that 33-kilometer gap passes approximately 1/5 of the world's entire oil supply. Most of us knew this by now. 20% of the world's oil comes through that 33-kilometer gap. That's around 17 to 21 million, million with an M, barrels per day, depending on the season. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all of their oil exports go directly through the Strait of Hormuz. If that strait closes, these countries cannot export, full stop. There is no realistic alternative route for most of them. And I say that just to mention the other strait over the other side of Saudi Arabia. It's an option, but it's not a great option. It's especially not great because it's over by Syria, where the Houthis hang out, and they're not best pleased with anybody either, because a war against Iran is a war against their financial backers and their spiritual besties. So, yeah. And also, Iran can just say to the Houthis, oh, yeah, they're going to try and use that strait over by you. Sorry, I forgot the name. Yeah, can you not let them do that? Or let them, but play dodge the bullet with them while they try and use it. So it really does mean there's no way of getting the oil out of the Middle East, which is a bit of a fucker for all of us. Now, currently, the US have effectively blockaded Iranian ports, and in return, Iran have functionally closed the Strait of Hormuz to normal commercial shipping. And that has been on, off, on, off, on, off ever since late February on Iran's part. We've only just recently decided that one blockage plus two blockage equals clear Straits of Hormuz. It doesn't. I could have told him that maths ain't mathing. Anywho, major shipping companies have diverted. They're just not going there. Insurers have cancelled war risk coverage because it's just too big a risk. Idiocy, absolutely. Laura. And the countries that rely on this Gulf oil, which is, let me think, most of the world, are really scrambling because we're going to run out. I heard we've got about 6 weeks of jet fuel left in the UK. I don't care because I'm not going anywhere, but I will care when the company's economy is absolutely fucked. So, $61 a barrel in January was the price of crude oil. It was $118 a barrel by the end of March. That was the largest quarterly jump in nearly 40 years of records. Well done, Trump. You got something. You achieved a record-breaking outcome in something, even if it was only how much the oil price rose. So this is the argument that Trump makes, and it's not technically entirely wrong, which makes it even more dangerous than if it was just a complete lie. We could just write it off as bollocks. He says, and I quote, America produces its own oil. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz. We're energy independent. And in a very narrow sense that the US will not literally run out of oil because the strait is closed. That's true. But that's where it ends. That's where the truth stopped truthin'. So, and this is a massive economy-sized so. The price of American oil, as many people have already commented in the chats, and I appreciate you getting so flipping stuck in, God love you all, is set on the global market. It doesn't matter how much of the stuff you've got. That's great for your economy. It's still shit for any fucker who wants to go and fill up their truck. American oil companies are not charities. You know the difference? Yeah? Yeah, you're probably feeling the difference as well. They sell at market rate every single time, always have done, always will. So, bollocks alert again. Should I missed something? No. It was something I feel like I missed, but maybe it comes up later. It was to do with the not owning the oil that you dig up. It belongs to the countries. I have missed it. I don't know where it is, so I'll quickly summarize. Norway, they are the masters. They've done it differently. Their share, which is about equal to the UK share of the North Sea oil, they invested in a kind of sovereign wealth fund. And that is worth trillions of dollars now because they've been investing for so long. Thank you, Amy. And it's just been building up and building up and building up and building up. So looking at the population of Norway on paper with their sovereign wealth fund, every single person in the entire country of Norway is a millionaire on paper. Let that be a lesson to us all, because the rest of us are fucking idiots. So, bollocks klaxon, woo, 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 woo. Claim, America doesn't need the Strait of Hormuz because we're energy independent. Reality, the US is safe from a supply cutoff. It's not insulated from global price rises. So the US is dandy, but you aren't. Before the war, Brent crude was trading at $73 a barrel. And as of now, mid-April 2026, it's around $95 a barrel still. It's forecast to go back up over 100 if the blockade continues. So US gas prices have gone from an average of $2.92 a gallon a month ago to an average of $4.14 a gallon now, which is nearly a 40% rise. You can be independent of needing foreign oil, but still have to pay global prices for your domestic oil. They're just not the same thing. So, yeah, it's sleight of hand, isn't it? He's trying to mislead while not exactly lying. And that's the Trump brand, isn't it? I'm afraid. So let's properly unpack the energy dominance claim, because this has been a central plank of Trump's political identity since his very first term, and it deserves a thorough going over. Thorough but brief, because we haven't got long. The US shale revolution is real. The fracking boom of the 2010s genuinely transformed American oil production, and it's not without its critics. I stand as one of them. By the end of Trump's first term, the US was producing more energy than it consumed for the first time in decades. That's a genuine achievement, but that belongs primarily to the easy for me to say, geological luck of having the Permian Basin and the technological development of horizontal drilling, not any specific president. Donnie. Not you. Sorry. Fine. So that's true. Here's what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean the US is a net exporter of crude oil in the narrow measure of crude oil alone, the stuff that actually determines petrol prices. As we said, the US is a net importer. The White House figure bundles refined products in with biofuels and natural gas liquids to get net exporter. Crude oil by itself, still getting that shit from abroad. It doesn't mean American refineries can process the oil that we're getting either. As we've discussed, the Gulf Coast refineries are configured for heavy crude. The Permian produces light crude. The infrastructure mismatch means you can't just route domestic production to domestic refineries and call it a day. It doesn't mean Americans are insulated from global prices. Every barrel produced in Texas is priced off WTI, which moves with Brent prices, which moves with what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. The price is global, full stop. Then my personal favourite receipt from the entire story is what Trump said himself on April the 13th, so just last week, on Fox News, hours after announcing his naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. This from the man who spent years telling Americans that under his leadership, energy would be cheap, abundant, and immune to foreign disruption. He did also say no forever wars, no foreign intervention. He said a lot of stuff that ain't true. When asked directly, though, at the moment of maximum pressure, whether his policy would deliver the thing he promised, he himself said could go either way. So good luck, everyone. Bollocks klaxon. The claim, thanks to President Trump's energy dominance agenda, the United States is totally energy independent. That is a direct quote from the White House spokeswoman Taylor Rogers in 2026. Reality, US gas prices rose from $2.92 to $4.14 a gallon, 40% rise in roughly 4 weeks following the Iran conflict. Energy prices rose 10.9% in March alone. Real wages, well, they fell 0.6% as earnings failed to keep pace with energy costs. The president himself, when asked if prices would fall before the midterms, said, quote, "I hope so, or maybe a little bit higher." That's not exactly energy dominance. That's hostage to the global markets wearing a nasty MAGA hat. So briefly, hello, Karen, welcome. I just want to touch on the Jones Act because I did promise. And it's a perfect illustration of how America's energy problems are not just about the global markets. Some of them are entirely self-inflicted. The Jones Act is a 1920 law, so over 100 years old, that says any goods shipped between two US ports must travel on ships that are American built, American owned, and American crewed. The intention is good. It was to protect the US shipping industry and maintain a domestic maritime workforce. Honorable, very. The effect a century later is that it's often cheaper to ship refined oil from the Gulf Coast refinery to a European port than it is to ship it up the east coast of America, because Jones Act compliant ships are expensive to build and operate, and there aren't enough of them. So, this is why Boston and other New England cities have historically imported heating oil from Russia rather than receiving it from Texas. Not because of geopolitics, not because Texas doesn't have oil, but because the Jones Act makes domestic coastal shipping so expensive, Russian imports were just cheaper. Trump did issue a 60-day Jones Act waiver in March to try and ease fuel prices on the East Coast, but we've seen how that went. You can waive the Jones Act all you like. If the global crude price has gone up 40%, cheaper domestic shipping doesn't move the needle very much. It's basically like getting a discount on your delivery charge when the item itself has doubled in price. I can understand that. It's not a good deal. So let's just be concrete about where we are today, mid-April 2026. The context. When Biden was in power, back in 2022, he was relentlessly attacked when gas prices hit $5 a gallon following a war and a global pandemic. We're now at $4.14 and rising as a direct consequence of a war of choice. The current administration started this war while claiming that it wouldn't hurt American energy prices because we don't need the Strait of Hormuz. And diesel. Yes, diesel. That's what the trucks run on, which means it's what determines the cost of literally everything in every shop in the country. And it's forecast to go above $5.80 a gallon. When diesel goes up, everything goes up. Food manufacturing, construction, medical supplies, everything. So before I wrap up, I just want to spend a moment on what a country can actually do to convert oil wealth into long-term national benefit. And it has been done, as I said, in Norway. So here's some of the detail of that Norway model. So They nationalized a significant chunk of their oil industry through Equinor, which was formerly Statoil, ensuring the Norwegian state captured a large share of the profits directly. It then created the government pension fund Global, which was their sovereign wealth fund, and put the money in it, investing it internationally rather than spending it on public services at that time. The fund is now worth, get this, it's worth me going into the detail just for this number, 1.7 trillion with a T US dollars. For a country of 5 million people, you can see how every Norwegian citizen is in fact a millionaire on paper through their share of the sovereign wealth fund. Norway uses the interest, not the principal, to supplement the country's budget. The oil will run out, the fund will not. Britain, we didn't bother with that. Very short-sighted, because I guess the way that the parliamentary cycles work, there's just no long-term planning when you don't expect to be there to see the outcomes of your initiative. So we largely privatized. We took the tax revenues and spent them. There was a brief attempt at a sovereign wealth fund back in the late 90s, early 2000s under Gordon Brown, but that was quietly dropped. The North Sea is now in significant decline. There is no fund. The money was spent. The oil's running out. Donald Trump's a moron. I don't know if I mentioned that. Maybe I did. America's situation is different in structure, but similar in outcome. The oil wealth went to private shareholders because, of course it did, because capitalism, not to a national fund. The infrastructure wasn't built to match the production. So when global prices spike, American consumers are fully exposed despite being told that they are insulated when it comes to oil. Being the world's largest oil producer and having nothing to show for it except expensive petrol and gasoline in a crisis is frankly one of the great policy failures of the last 50 years. And yes, exactly, Laura. Renewable, solar, wind, the any alternatives to the non-renewables. Trump hates them, but they are the future. And I absolutely believe that. Go Greta, yay. Wish I could have had that much motivation and intelligence and inspiration when I was her age. Although I do find her a little bit precocious, but that's a personality thing. That's just, it's just a me thing. So let me bring this home, because how close are we to Glenn? Am I running into him yet? Sorry, I'm just trying to get there. Can't get the little clock on the top, so I don't know what the time is. Let's look at the phone. Sorry. Oh, 1:15. Okay, we've got like a few seconds. So where are we? What have we discussed tonight? Here is the summary. These are the key things to have taken from tonight. Oh, I've done the thingamajig. I've done that. It's killing the whales. Yeah. Poor whales. Do you know, it's funny. We drive back past 4 or 5 wind turbines when I pick Liam up from school and when I take him to school. And I'm like, Liam, you've got to shout. I can't hear you over these terribly loud wind turbines. And he looks at me and he's like, you can't hear them. Like, oh, no, you're right. You can't. They're not killing whales. They're not killing eagles that aren't actually American eagles. They're something else. And nobody's eating the cats and dogs. Correct, Summer. Anywho, look at you, Amy. So, these are the key facts. Brent crude is the global benchmark, comes from the North Sea. WTI, or WTF as I like to call it, is the American benchmark from Texas. Normally, they're a few dollars apart. Right now, They are $12 apart and have been as wide as $25 apart because the Strait of Hormuz is functionally closed. Comments if I've frozen for you. And I just apologize. Hopefully you can still hear me. Light, sweet crude, like WTI crude, is easy to refine, but American refineries can't efficiently process most of it, so it gets exported. Heavy, sour crude from Canada, Saudi Arabia, Iraq is what American refineries actually need, so it gets imported. Net exporter of everything combined, yes. Net importer of the specific thing that determines your gas prices, also, yes. The Strait of Hormuz carries a fifth of the world's oil. It is closed. That means global prices have gone up roughly 40% since February, and that is hurting us all. Your prices followed because American oil is priced on the, let's all say it together, global market. Because American oil companies are not charities and they sell to the highest bidder. Because there is no policy, never has been and never will be, to insulate American consumers from that. I'm sorry. Not that sorry, because you've seen what we pay in fuel duty. Trump's energy dominance claim is true in one very narrow sense. America will not run out of oil because the strait is closed. That's true. It's false in every other regard, in the sense that actually matters to you Americans. You're not insulated from global price rises. You never were. He knew that, or at least he should have. And when asked to his face whether prices would come down, he said, and I quote, "I hope so, or maybe a little higher." Okay, great. Thanks, Donny. That's your energy independence there, right there. One sentence. Yeah, they might be the same or a bit lower or higher, one of the three. He's a genius. 4D chess. So that's all on the subject of the black gold. I hope you found it useful and informative and educational, because that's what I enjoy. So hopefully you're here because you enjoy that too. And anybody who's not up for the prayer thing, we're done. You are free to leave. Go do what you need to do to get ready for Glenn or however else you're spending your evening. If you want the receipts, you do have to be a paid subscriber, but it's really, really cheap. It's a lot cheaper than your gas prices. So if you want those receipts, they're all in the notes. They will be posted after the show for my paid subscribers, because I've got to give them something, right? Right. It's only fair. But tonight's prayer is one I specifically chose and prepared in advance. And this is for all of us because we need it, but it's also especially for Donald, Jesus impersonator, that's what the J stands for, Trump, Pious Pete Kegsbreath, Minion Mike Johnson, and Judas Dumbass Vance. You wonder what the JD stands for. It's Judas Dumbass. And anybody else, really, who finds that when deciding who knows God's will better between Satan's soulmate and God's chief earth officer, they're going to back the guy who couldn't even touch the Bible at his swearing in ceremony, lest it burst into flames. I'm not lying. The evidence is there. So, if you would like to stay, I ask that you get into a comfy position, connect with whatever higher power works in your life, and we will pray. And I'm taking this reading directly from the King James Bible because I've read it, not Quentin Tarantino. And it's from the book of Matthew, verses 1 to 23 and 43 to 45. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. And when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savour, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on an hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Ye have heard that it was said of them of old time, Thou shalt not kill. And whosoever thou shalt kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if thou bring a gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbour and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. We ask you, God, to please hear our prayer, to protect and guide us in all we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. thank you. I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed refreshing my knowledge of another wonderful book. I'm not a practicing Christian. I am someone who believes in a powerful higher power, and I appreciate any book that gives me an insight into being a good person. I've got a copy of the Quran somewhere on my shelves just here. Don't know where, because I've never read it. So why wouldn't I when somebody offered me? I was like, yeah, I'll have that. Thank you. And I will get around to reading it and hopefully be able to share something from it with you one day. But yes, we are perilously close to Glen, and I still can't see what the time is. 26. So you've got like 2 minutes to run to the toilet or whatever it is you need to do. That's what I'm going to do. But enough about me. That's all for today. Hopefully we will be back on Thursday with the Mamas meeting. With a bit of luck, I'll have Laura and Summer guest presenting with me, and we can look at what the hell's going on from all angles, from Canada, the US and the UK. And until then, look after yourselves, look after each other, and stay safe and stay sane if you possibly can. If not, it's not compulsory. I will love you and leave you because it is now late. Glenn is about to start, and I'm afraid for this episode, the cafe is, and it may take me a while to close it because my computer's being a bitch, but the cafe is closed. Bye-bye.